Hello, everyone. Welcome to a different side of the inside. I'm here again with Clarence. We're going to continue our conversation on what's going on behind the walls. We hit on a lot of topics in our last segments, and today we're going to talk a little bit about the rehabilitation, what that means, what it really means, and is there rehabilitation in the prisons? Has it been there in the past? Or is it here? Is it here today? Or, Clarence is going to give us some insight on that. All right, Clarence, it's on you.
Okay, good morning, viewers, listeners. I did want to revisit some of the matters that we discussed yesterday on the last segment, and this one in regard to rehabilitation. Rehabilitation has been instilled within the California Department of Corrections as of recent. It used to just be California Department of Corrections, and now it's California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. For 70-something years, they had what they call the indeterminate sentencing law, and now it's called the determinate sentencing law. During these years of implementation of these different types of laws, rehabilitation has really never been a part of the dynamic system itself, what they call the penological golden interest. Rehabilitation was really viewed as something that one can indulge in on his own, through his own actions. Self-study, in-cell study, meditation, prayer, religious preference, different activities that keep you occupied throughout your term of imprisonment. California Department of Corrections had lacked implementing these type of programs and facilitating them for availability for people who had to go to the board to present their cases to the board members and make a showing of how they've been rehabilitated. They use words like reform, and who really knows what that means, because it's not something that is recognized inside the prison, unless it's the reforming of a program, a different type of program, something that's being implemented, and something that's that we have to comply with. But reform and rehabilitation, they seem to go hand in hand, but they really don't, to say the least, because the rehabilitative efforts, they're being facilitated now through funding, and I believe that the people who come in to perform these groups with the inmates, these are sincere volunteers. These are people who take it to heart of helping people coming in to volunteer their services and to provide, avenues, for inmates to better themselves in preparation for re-entry into society. However, inside the prison setting, it's a lot of chaos. It's confusion again, because in the level 4 setting prisons, inmates are subjected to ongoing lockdowns, even though lockdowns don't last for 14 days now, as opposed to back in the days. The 14 days can eliminate the participation in those rehabilitative programs, because they don't run them during lockdowns. And with the prisons being understaffed, they use logistical reasons to justify everything. They're shorter staff. We don't have the staffing to run normal program. And when a prison, took me, because when they first built, let's call
and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
And I'm not trying to get off the subject, but when they started building prisons in California, they didn't put people in these prisons until they were fully furnished and facilitated normal operations and fully equipped with staffs, because it would still be considered a condemned prison. Today, on the flip side, the prison could be short of staff and cannot facilitate normal operations and daily programming, and inmates are housed in their cells, and the prison is actually a condemned prison if you don't have the staff to facilitate it. So it's a big question as to how all these things are going on, and how when inmates bring these matters to the court's attention, and the courts seem to turn a blind eye as well on these matters, it just seems like, the political form and spectrum in California, is something that most inmates are not a part of, and this is something that society has to recognize and understand. But how could society know about these things unless they get a bird's eye view of what's going on inside a prison? So, speaking to the rehabilitative efforts in California's prisons, I think that rehabilitation is a good thing. I believe that rehabilitation is meaningful. I believe that rehabilitation is within oneself. I don't think it can be narrowly defined to what CDCR is able and capable of providing. I don't think that an inmate's individual efforts, such as making conscious decisions in his heart and in his mind to refrain from criminal acts and criminal activities, I don't think those things should be discarded or overlooked as if they're not meaningful because it's not being facilitated by prison officials or the state of California. Inmates struggle a lot to program, and now, as we speak today, programs are being diminished. They're reducing jobs, inmate jobs inside of the prison, from full-time jobs to part-time jobs, while the PIA is only being limited to a certain percentage of the inmate population, whereas it still seems to be a farce because you have to work a certain amount of hours before you can actually get paid, and then you have to work a certain amount of hours before you can start earning overtime. It's almost like, again, here you go, you got to work for free in order to get the slave wage, $1 an hour or however, whatever they give you. It's confusing. It's absolutely confusing, but these are the things that the board relies on when they so-called consider you for parole consideration. Inmates strive on a regular basis to show that they're in rehabilitative mode because, they think that presenting these chronos and certificates of achievement and completion, that these are helpful tools to present to the board and likely your chances of getting a parole release date. However, the board is an entity of its own, and the board is a part of where the system says that an inmate who has 25 to life is eligible for parole. That eligibility is overshadowed by the amount of time an inmate has and the decision of the board. Because if the board does not think you are ready because you cannot articulate the very things that they want to hear, that you're rehabilitated, and then they come up with all types of different schemes where, they require you to demonstrate insight into your crime. It's like, you have an inmate has to continue to relive over and over the crime that he committed in order for the board to recognize at some point that you have insight and that you're remorseful for your actions. it's a lot when inmates are required to do 25 years of their life in prison for the crimes that they committed, you know. And I'm not trying to excuse the punishment for crimes, but when these punishments are issued out, there's no scientific evidence, you know, of these types of heightened punishments being rehabilitative or effective deterrences to keep people from coming to prison. That's why I believe that in rehabilitation, one has to be fed up himself with living the life of the inside of prison walls, and have to make that conscious decision to say, enough is enough. I've been the wrongdoer all my life. It's time to, you know, try the other direction. You know, start doing right for a change. You know, that's the only way that you can really try to make common sense out of it. But you know, and excuse me if I'm being sporadic and kind of all over the place with this rehabilitation thing, but me personally, I think that it's unfair for a person to be convicted for the amount of years in California that they're convicted of crimes, and then are being tried again by a tribunal that consists of law enforcement officials and probably special interest groups of California who oppose criminality, you know, who stand for law enforcement, who has a prejudiced view and eye of how they decide inmates should be maintained in prison or declared prison.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
But because of the fact that there's different prisons and different levels of prison settings that provide different forms of rehabilitation, I believe that when inmates are in level 4s, they're not getting the equal share of the rehabilitative efforts, even though the prisons are still being funded probably the same amount of money to provide for those type of participations and services. You know, and this is just my perspective.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I've been in the prison system for some time now, you know, and I don't go to the board much, you know. I don't even go in front of them because it seems that there's already a predetermination before you even go in there that you're not going to get released. And there are some people who there's a predetermination that, okay, well, they're going to let this person go. You know, how it's determined, I can't tell you, but I know it just seems that they come up with different schematics every time you turn around. Now it seems like there's a requirement for having 5 years clean time in order to be suitable or eligible for parole release, but there's nothing written that you're required to do 5 years clean time. You know, in fact, the laws speak to the contrary. We're going to have to pause for a second to regather and continue this conversation.
Okay, Clarence, I want to ask this one question before you get started. Because you're saying the level 4s, if you have a level 4 status, then there's always something going on. Even if you're trying to run a program and you're trying to, you know, get it together, there's always some kind of chaos or anything, other stuff that's going on. And so it's almost impossible. I'm not saying it's not possible, but the odds are against you when it comes to running a good program because of the lockdowns and all that stuff. And you mentioned that there are times when there's your time to go before the board, and you kind of back off of that. And I just asked you, like, you know, why do you do that? And I just want you to explain to our listeners, because it's really something I think they should hear.
Okay.